Hey guys, what's going on? This is Cavion with episode number 5 of my vlog. This is like the third time I'm recording this because first time I went on a tangent, which got off topic. Second time, a bunch of noises outside and the dog. So, yeah. This episode I'm going to talk about being true to yourself and sometimes how it's difficult to be true to yourself. Yeah. So in in the past 10 years, over the past 5 to 10 years, I should say, I have been foolish in some ways by thinking that people were supportive of me um, when in reality they weren't, you know. And I'm not saying that's everybody that I've been in contact with, obviously not, but more a majority of them weren't, and they just made me think that they were, and I was being gullible. So in dating, in my dating life, in my music career, I was letting the doubts of other people and the ideas of other people reshape my thinking in a way that is isn't beneficial to me. You know, it caused me a lot of years of suffering that I didn't need to go through, but being I kept being duped. You know, and I I had no boundaries and stuff like that. My boundaries that I used to have just were null and void, and it made it difficult, you know. And it's something that isn't uh, it isn't like I lost anything, you know, in a sense of like I didn't lose any time. Excuse me. I didn't lose any time because I'm 30 years old and I don't look like I'm 30 years old. I still look like I'm 25 years old. Youngest 25, you know, maybe 24. But I still had to go through this process of learning or relearning myself, you know, relearning who I am as a person. And there are some things that, I always, stand up for or that I stand behind where it's just like, no, this is how I feel. There's nothing that you can say and or do to make me change my mind because I've seen the evidence of it being a bad idea or a bad deal, you know. So, for example, um, musically, I'm not going to sign to a major record label because they are just vampires. They just take full control of your music and your creativity and tell you what they can or what you can release and when you can release it, and they have control over you. And I don't like that. So I have put in the hard work over the past few years so that way I don't have to worry about who's in control and who's not. I'm in control because I did all the hard work to learn how to make this work for me. So I do it myself. Um, Another way in which I stay very adamant, very strongly. I stand strong on is the issues of equality, where it would be civil rights, human rights, things like that. I stand very firm on that. I don't wax and wane when it comes to that. That's not something I do. So just a couple examples of how I've still been able to stay true to myself. However, in the places that people have kind of weaseled their way into to try to change my perspective or change my mind on their perspective or to their perspective. So when it comes to those new perspectives that I was being kind of forced to to believe. It's something where I try to, you know how they say, put the shoe on the other foot. So I'm like, okay, if this is how this person feels about something, let me look at it from their point of view. And when I started to do that, people would be very they'd be very accepting of it, right? Because it's just like, oh, okay, this guy's gonna actually look at things from my point of view to see where I'm coming from in order to be a little more connected with me. And that's on any level, whether it be a professional level, an emotional level, a romantic level, a just a human experience on a level of human experience. And then very soon after that, that was the tactic that was used in order to change my mind on a lot of things. And it still gets done, but it's taken me some time to fully acknowledge it and now say, you know what? It's not me, it's you. Because if it was about me not, you know, being able to see the other side of the coin, then I would accept that. But that's not the issue. I'm realizing that the issue is you just don't want to change your perspective. You'd rather have me accept your perspective and just take that as gospel truth. And it's eye-opening. It's really eye-opening, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to say, damn, this person did all this just to make me feel like I'm responsible, like a narcissistic type of thing, where they try to point the finger at you and blame you for the things that they are actually doing, and it's hard to cope with at first, but then you get to this very sweet point of just saying, you know what, it's not my problem. It's really not my problem, and that's not the same as saying I don't stand behind something, I'm not going to look at someone being mistreated who may not be my demographic and look at them and say, hey, that's not my problem. If one person is mistreating another person for no just reason, for no reason at all, then I'm going to stand with that person because they did not deserve that, just for being who they are, whether they be black, brown, LGBTQ, trans, whatever. I'm going to stand with that person who's being mistreated. That's not what this is. This new perspective I have. Or not even new perspective. This regained perspective. The perspective that I've regained of just now realizing it is not my problem, is about those people who do nothing but complain about what's going wrong, or not even that. The people who have a problem for every solution. It's like the joke that people say when Jesus would walk on water, and the people who saw him said, "Oh yeah, he can't walk. He's walking on water. That's only because he can't swim." Always a problem for every solution, Those people who are never satisfied. For those people, I'm finally getting to the point of my regained perspective where it's just like, it's not my problem. And it isn't. It is legitimately not my problem. I tried to help out with the problem, but it's just blown up in my face. It's just It's just gotten me hurt. I've suffered for somebody else to try and help them, and they know it. That's the thing. They know that I'm trying to help, but then they still treat me the way they do because of whatever the reason is. And that's happened to me in my music career and in my dating life. So like in my music career, I would be doing my best to like help somebody else and try to give them the like a leg up, or some sort of insight, so that way they didn't make the same mistakes I did, or that they could navigate this differently. And then they still end up going that way, and in some form or fashion, it's just like they would either fight me tooth and nail or just ignore me completely and do what they wanted to anyway. And I'm just like, well, then what was my point for even, what did I need to contribute? It just didn't make any sense to me. So after that, it's just like, you know what? You do what you want to do. That's up to you. Whatever you decide, that's cool. And it's also not my problem. And that's the same thing, in my dating life. I've experienced things that have made me be, or try to be, more understanding of of the opposite sex. Try to be as uh, empathic. You know, Try to be a little more. If the shoe was on the other foot, how would I like it? And if I wouldn't like it, then I wouldn't indulge in what they don't like. So I'm sounding cryptic here. Let me be a little more open. So what I mean is, if women complain about being objectified, right, and just being seen for their bodies and nothing else, then I'm just not. I'll look, but I'm not gonna like just Google her and just focus on what her body is. I will look at her as a person, and just as a peripheral by peripheral vision, just say, oh, this is a human being that is in front of me, and look them in the eye with respect. But then I've watched videos on this. It's just like I've seen videos of multiple different articles that say women nowadays do not want to be treated like they can't do things themselves, or they don't want to be objectified, or no offensive language towards them or anything like that. And I get it. I understand. All the women who are independent, as the Destiny's Child song goes. I get it. I understand. You know. So I, as well as many other men, oblige to this and say, all right, we're not gonna what's the word? We're not gonna exert our masculinity onto you. If you want to be independent, then fine. You want to be equal with us, fine. We will make sure this is equal. We are listening. We understand you. Here's what we're doing. And now, as of recent years, in recent, like 2 years, now it's just like, oh, men aren't assertive anymore. They aren't taking action. They aren't making the move. And it's just like, well, when we wanted to take action, you didn't want that. And us guys get it. There are many men out there who are very misogynistic. So we get where you were coming from. So we were trying to, be a little more modern and say, okay, instead of being a misogynist and just looking at you for, what your body is, instead of listening to you, we're going to listen. And now many women are saying they're unhappy because, there are men out there who are taking initiative, like I said, or because of the workforce being more including of women, or college graduates being a higher percentage of women than men. And it's just like, that's cool. We're all for you women getting your education, getting a good job. We're all for you doing your thing. Excuse me. But now you're saying you want a man to make more money than you, and if excuse me, and if he doesn't, then it's just like, well, you know what? I've lost my interest in him. Or if the woman makes more than him because she's an empowered woman and she's found her dream job and it pays well. Now it's just like, well, he's not interested in me anymore. So it just leaves me to this point now where I'm just like, hey, it's not my problem because it isn't, and it's something that I didn't think I would have to do. You know, I thought the mentality I had back when I was a teenager, like between 15 and 19, right? I thought to myself, or I thought to myself, like, in my 20s, that was my teenage, those were my teenage years. It's like we're just having fun, going to parties, having a good time, hanging out with friends. Like, I don't really care, like, what's going on. Like, I'm just here to have a good time and enjoy myself with or without you. I thought my newer mentality from the modern change of society was a good thing, but it's ended up not being a good thing. It's detrimental now. Like I said, it's just it's suffering with no reward. It's going through this long journey with no promised land at the end, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it anymore. It really isn't. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to just go ahead and start disrespecting women. I'm not saying I'm going to do that. What I'm saying is, I'm just not going to care. It's not my problem anymore. I'm going to be true to myself again, like I used to be, and say, hey, look, you do you, I do me. I'm not going to kowtow and try and, break my back to please you or help you because you won't do the same for me. And if I did, I'd be called what they say nowadays is a simp. A simp is a guy who lets a woman walk all over him. And I've been that guy. I've been a simp over the last few years. But I wasn't understanding that because I thought I was supposed to be respectful of women, which is what I was raised to do. Be a respectful man, treat a woman right, don't look at her as an object of, to have fun with, be understanding of her. And now it's just like, oh, if a guy does that, he must be a simp, So I could, he's just gonna jump through these hoops and do all these things, and I don't have to do anything except be myself. Even if I'm a horrible person, he's still going to respect me because I'm a girl. And that's the mentality that a lot of women have now for a lot of men who have done nothing but actually listen. And again, not all men are like this. A lot of men are still misogynistic, but there are a lot of women who aren't satisfied. So there's a good hefty amount of women who are good women, respectful, who don't look at a man respecting her as some derogatory thing or negative thing. And you have good men out there who are respectful of women but also focus on their own career, their own goals. And then you have the women who are just playing with you and never satisfied and want to complain for the sake of complaining. And then you have the men who are misogynist and don't care about women and just, see them as, as just playthings. Just unapologetically see them as playthings. What I'm doing here is saying for the experiences that I've had, for the unnecessary suffering I've gone through, for all the times that I could have had a good time with a woman who was interested in me, But because of my mentality thinking, you know what, maybe that's not what she wants, and I'm not going to force myself onto her because that's just disrespectful. She'll just say, "Oh, well, he must be a simp. He's not able to take, take control of the situation. He's not able to lead, or she's not able to, whatever." I'll just move on to the next guy. It's like, come on. You ask for something and then you get it and then you're not happy with it. So then why? Like, why do it? It just never makes sense to me. But now it does. And because it makes sense to me, it's not my problem. And that's what's made me actually very happy in this instance, or in this experience that I've had over my 20s. So I say over the past 5-10 years, I'll just say in my 20s. In my 20s, I've realized that it is much, much better to be neutral, to just be nonchalant about it. Like, hey, it's not my problem. It's not my problem. If some other man is gonna threaten some woman out in public, I'll stand up and stand for her. Be like, yo, what are you doing? I'm not gonna have some man just wail on her or threaten her in public if I have anything to say about it. But even then, sometimes there are some women, and it's sad to say, I'm just being honest. There are some women that crave that feed off of that drama and that emotion. So even in that, it's like it leaves me confused and at a loss, and I'm just like, well, what am I supposed to do? It's one of those things where you're you're darned if you do, and you're darned if you don't. So it's a good revelation I've come to, which is so funny because it's a revelation I came to when I was a teenager, when I was a young kid, and it's made me happy that I've come back to this, and it's a practice that is going to be, even just thinking about it right now, just makes me feel zen, makes me feel very, very at peace, very at peace with myself, because I made the effort, I did what I was told I had to do, and it's not like I was a misogynist pig when I was growing up. I wasn't. I was just more aware. I became more aware in my 20s of what issues women go through, and I thought I was counteracting that with my new lease on life, my new perspective. But all it did was make me realize that I was wasting my time, and that's what it was. It was a waste of time. In every instance that I had in my 20s where I was not concerned with if the woman felt a certain way or not, when I was just focused on what I was doing, I ended up having a good time. When I was, and not just when I say this, I don't mean that I was either looking for a woman or not looking for a woman, but in the times when I was looking for a woman, it didn't work. But that's just usually what happens. As soon as a guy's not interested in a woman, she becomes interested in him, which still makes no sense to me. It doesn't even make sense to most women out there, but that's the way their brains are wired or whatever. But it's not even that. It's about when I was not looking for anything, that's when, I had a good time that night or for that weekend or whatever. But when I was just aware, when I was just aware you know, of the interaction, or aware of what was going on, it got me put into this category of being a simp. So yeah. So now uh, this reawakening of being true to myself, which again, just thinking about it just puts me in a very zen place, a very relaxed place. It makes me it makes me not eager, because it's not one of those where it's just like, oh man, I can't wait to like go outside and just act like things aren't a problem. Now it's just like I don't even like I don't care anymore, you know? I just don't. So yeah, it's not my problem. So for you guys out there who may be watching this video, I want you to know that you have your morals, you have your principles, you have, you know, your stances on life and so on and so forth. But it's much more beneficial for you to be what society is now calling a MGTOW, which is an acronym for men going their own way. So be a MGTOW. You know, if you have a passion in life, like I do with my music, focus on that. Follow that. Don't be like these men out here who think if I just go to school for a certain amount of time and get a job and just work hard at that job and move up in the ranks, I'll find myself a good woman, and you know she'll be there and it'll be great. It's usually not the case. And if it is the case, if for some of you that works for you and you do find a good woman and she stays with you, kudos to you, man. Like, all the more power to you. I'm not trying to discourage you from that if that's what works for you. But I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that it's made my life much, much better because I didn't give up on my music. I didn't take the classic route of going to school for X amount of years, racking up all this debt, and then working a job I hate in order to be a good man that protects and provides for his woman. Because nowadays, either the woman is going to be making more than you, more percentage of them are going to graduate than us men are, and they're just, in a lot of ways, aren't going to be satisfied. It sucks, but that's the reality of it. Just like racism, right? A lot of people want to say, oh, well, slavery was so long ago, you know, black people need to just get over it. But here we are, still being murdered in the streets, shot down, gunned down, and it's like, it's good to have the ideal of like, oh yeah, slavery's over, that means racism is miraculously cured. But the reality of it is, it's very apparent in our entire system. From the janitor to the CEO, the entire company is contaminated with the systemic racism. So follow what it is that your passion is. Work hard on your passion. Work hard on yourself, being your best version of you, and do it for you. It's not selfish at all. It's not selfish to become your best version of yourself. Live your best life, because no one's going to live it for you, and certainly no one is going to stay with you or respect you if you just live for them. Or if they do, like if they They either don't respect you. I'm sorry, they either don't stay with you, or if they stay with you, they don't respect you. That's just the reality of it. Be true to yourself. That's my whole point. So yeah, like, share, comment, subscribe if you are digging my vlogs. Um, I'll be making more. I do love doing these things, and it's helping me be more true to myself again. Um, and yeah, you guys stay safe out there, be well, and don't give up on yourself.